Good morning, class. It's a new day, a new life, and a new beginning. And also, we're here to learn about our new topic. But before anything else, may I request everyone to please stand up for our prayer. And I will ask the class mayor to please lead us in prayer. Okay, once again, good morning, class. Okay, before you sit down, can we pick up the pieces of paper under your table or your chair? Okay, you may now take your seats. Thank you so much, class. And now, I will remind you to our classroom rules in order for us to become organized and to avoid unnecessary conflicts. So first is you must listen actively. Second is to raise your hand if you want to speak or if you have any answer, kindly raise your hand and do not answer in chorus. So third, you must be respectful at all times. Okay, is that clear? Okay, thank you so much. And now, before we begin in our topic, I want you to condition your minds first. Okay, so now I know some of the students here are somewhat tired this morning. But I want you to condition your mind through this activity. So this activity is called the front statue dance. So the mechanics are, so the students dance freely while music plays. So I will play music and you will dance freely because I know you're all talented here. So when the music stops, so the teacher calls out a specific weather front. Like for example, cold front, and then you will freeze. And then after you freeze, students must quickly freeze and a pose that represents the characteristics of that front. So like for example, I will go cold front, and then you will shiver your body. Or I will say warm front, you will wave your hands. So that is the mechanics. And those who will fail to freeze correctly respond slowly if you respond in a slow pace, or choose an unrelated pose. If you will pose that is unrelated to that certain front, you will be eliminated. So the students who will not be eliminated will declare as the winner. So are you all excited? Okay, so let's all start. Thank you so much, class, for your cooperation. I know you have really a fun time with that activity. So now, before we begin for our proper discussion, let's have first our lesson objectives. So at the end of the lesson, you, the student, shall be able to first is to identify the different types of weather front. Second is to illustrate the formation and the movement of each type of weather fronts. Third is you must recognize the importance of understanding weather fronts in predicting weather patterns. And lastly, foster enthusiasm through engaging collaborative tasks. And now, let's have our activity, our collaborative activity. So this activity is called the front sorting challenge. So you will be grouped in 4 groups and you will have a count of, I will group you, and each group will receive a set of cards containing descriptions. So I have here a set of cards containing descriptions, diagrams, and weather conditions related to various weather fronts. I have here descriptions, diagrams, and weather conditions related to various or to the 4 weather fronts. So you will sort the cards into 4 categories. So you will sort these cards into 4 categories, such as the weather, the cold front, the warm front, the stationary front, and the occluded front. So once all the cards are sorted, once all these cards will be sorted, each group will have a representative and explain their reasoning in the class. You will present your answer in front of the class. Just choose representative in each group, and These will be your guide questions. So first, what characteristics help you identify this type of weather front? So second is, how does this front form based on the description provided? And last question, what weather conditions are associated with this front? So kindly go to your groups and answer this activity. Okay, thank you so much for your participation and for being collaborative in your respective groups. Now, I want to ask you regarding these images. How are these two scenes different? How do they differ from each other? Anyone from the class? Yes? Okay, very good. How will you describe letter A? Okay, how about letter B? Okay, that was a really good idea. So in letter A, you are correct. So it shows a rainy scene. So as you can see, there is a rain. And it is an example of a regular rainy weather. If you have seen a rainy weather, so you can observe this, a regular rainy season. So in letter B, as you can see here, it shows a stormy scene. That is very good idea. So you can see there is a storm and somewhat a tornado or a wind, strong wind, and it is an example of a severe weather. That is somewhat scary weather compared to this one, right? Okay, so now, how about this one? What causes the umbrella to flip? Yes? Okay, that is a really good answer. So one of the factors that causes the umbrella to flip when you go outside is because of the strong winds. Very good. Now, what is an air mass? Masses. What is an air masses? And what do you think happens when two different air masses meet? Do you know what an air mass means? Yes. Okay, very good. And what do you think happens when two different air masses meet? Okay. So, thank you so much. So, an air mass is a large body of air. So it is a large body of air that has the same temperature and humidity throughout. Like for example, this is a cold air. So that will be sorted in your activity, based on your activity, that will be sorted as a cold air mass, and then it has the same temperature and humidity throughout. So when different air masses meet, if like a cold air mass and a warm air mass, they will meet, so they can create weather changes. They will create weather changes just like storms, rain, or clouds. As you can see in the previous illustration, that there are clouds, there are storms, rains, and other weather events. Now, have you ever noticed a change in the weather when the temperature suddenly rises or drops? What do you think causes that? What do you think what do you think the cause of some weather changes due to temperature rise or drops? Anyone from the class? Yes? Okay, very good. So, a sudden drop or rise in temperature is usually caused by a weather front. Mao di ay ang reason nga nung somewhat na ay weather changes. One of the causes that could create weather changes or temperature changes, it is because of the weather front, like a cold or a warm front. So, that is the two types of the front moving through the area. So when that air mass in the previous slide, when the cold air mass and the warm air mass collide, or they will meet within each other, the boundary within that front, or the boundary within that air mass, big air mass, is called the weather front, because we all know that if cold front and the warm front will meet, they will not totally mix within each other, because they have different humidity and temperature, and at the same time they have different density. And when they meet, the boundary within that air masses is called the front. So now, how does the movement of air masses create different weather patterns across regions? How does the movement of air masses create different weather patterns across regions? If that weather, if that air masses move across a region, how does that affect the weather patterns of that particular region? Yes? Okay, very good. So the movement of air masses, whether it is a cold or warm air masses, so it determines the type of front and the weather that follows, because a certain front, there is also a certain weather pattern or weather change. So cold air masses create cold fronts, so that brings storms, while warm air masses create warm fronts that brings light rain and gradual temperature changes. So in the first illustration, that represents a warm front, and the second illustration, let's go back. This illustration, this shows a warm front, because it is just a light rain and somewhat a light wind. So in this second illustration, this shows a cold front, because it creates a storm and somewhat a severe rain. Okay, is that clear? Okay, thank you so much. Now, an air mass is a large body of air that has the same temperature and humidity throughout. So it forms over a specific area. So an air mass would create in a specific area of land or in the ocean. Depending on where it forms, it can be warm, cold, dry, or moist. So again, the boundary where two different air masses meet is called a front. So if this is a cold front and this is a warm front, and they may meet within each other, the boundary within that different air masses is called the weather front. So fronts are where the weather changes. So in that certain front, that is where weather changes happen. Okay? Now, there are 4 types of fronts. So first is the cold front, second is the warm front. So this is a cold front. This, you can see that different weather changes in here. This is the warm front. The stationary front, the third type of weather front, is the stationary front, and the last is the occluded front. So let's know these 4 types of front before we, as we deepen our understanding regarding this weather front. Okay, now let's have the first type of front, which is the cold front. So what is a cold front? So a cold front forms when a cold air mass pushes into a warmer air mass. So as a cold front moves into an area, the heavier cool air pushes under the lighter warm air, causing it to rise up into the troposphere. Excuse me. Like for example, let's say this is a cold air mass and this is a warm air mass. So this cold air mass pushes the warm air mass, and then this cold air mass, because we all know that the cool air is much denser than the warm air, so this cool air will push the warm air, and this dense warm air will move or will rise up into the troposphere. So the lifted warm air ahead of the front produces cumulus or cumulonimbus clouds or even thunderstorms. So this warm air will create cumulus or cumulonimbus and will bring thunderstorms. And as the cold front passes, winds become gusty, sudden drop in temperature occur, and also heavy rain, sometimes with hail, thunder, or lightning. So that is a cold front. So I have here an image of a cold front. Can anyone in the class describe or explain what she or he has observed in this illustration? Yes, miss? Okay, very good. So she have seen that this weather symbol has a triangles, which has a blue color. So you can see this in the weather map. A triangle attached, a line attached to the triangle, and this triangle, like the direction of the triangle indicates the direction of the wind. So like for example, this is a cold air. These are the cold airs, the 45° Fahrenheit, 40° Fahrenheit. So this cold air will move or will push the warm air, which is the 48, 62. This will be moved by the cold air, and it will rise up into the troposphere, which creates a cumulus or cumulonimbus clouds and would eventually create storms and winds. So now, let's proceed to the warm front. So a warm front forms when a warm air mass pushes into a cooler air mass. So warm fronts often bring stormy weather as the warm air mass at the surface rises above the cool air mass, making clouds and storms. So basically, this warm front is just the opposite of the cold front. So when this warm air pushes the cold air, it will create a warm front. So it will then create as well clouds and storms. This, I have an illustration of a warm front. In addition to cold front also, so the cold front has a movement of 25 to 30 miles per hour. So this the cold front moves 25 to 30 miles per hour in a certain area. So this cold front moves to 25 to 30. So the warm front, can anyone describe the illustration? Okay, yes miss? Very good. So she have observed that this warm front has a semicircle, a line attached with a semicircle. So this arrow also indicates the movement or the direction of the wind. So it is like 60° Fahrenheit, 57° Fahrenheit, and it will push, this warm air pushes the cold air, which creates clouds and storms as well. So I have a question in the class. So what do you think moves faster, the cold front or the warm front? Yes? Okay, very good. So the cold front moves faster than the warm front because the warm front only moves approximately about 10 to 25 miles per hour. So that is why the cold front moves faster, because it has 25 to 30 miles per hour than the warm front, because the warm front only moves from 10 to 25 miles per hour. Now, let's proceed to the stationary front. So a stationary front forms when a cold front or a warm front stops from moving. From its word stationary, it will not move anymore because it has, what do you think? Because this both air mass, neither both this air mass is powerful enough to move the other. So this happens when two masses of air are pushing against each other, but neither is powerful enough to move the other. So when the warm air mass and the cold air mass will push against each other, but they both are having equal or the same power, so they will just stop from moving. So that is called the stationary front. This is the stationary front. So winds blowing parallel to the front instead of perpendicular can help it stay in place. So winds blowing, so is this arrow indicates the direction. So when there is a stationary front, the movement of the wind is perpendicular towards its direction of the front. So if the wind direction changes, the front will start moving again. If the wind direction changes, the front will be separated from each other and will gradually start moving again, becoming either a cold or a warm front, or the front will break apart or will disappear. So I have here an image of a stationary front. So this is an example of a stationary front. So the arrow, you can see the arrow is perpendicular to the direction of the front. So this is an image, this symbol is as you can see, this is the warm front, this is the cold front. So they have the same, or they are not actually moving anymore. So that is a stationary front. Is that clear? Okay, thank you so much. Now, last but not the least, let's have the occluded front. So the occluded front occur when a faster moving cold front catches up to a slower moving warm front. So a warm air mass pushes into a colder air mass, and then another cold air mass pushes into the warm air mass. So that would be the description of the occluded front. So there is often precipitation along an occluded front from cumulonimbus or nimbostratus clouds. So wind changes direction as the front passes, and the temperature either warms or cools. So I have here an image of occluded front, which can be seen in the weather map. So this is an occluded front. So we all know that the cold air moves faster than the warm air. So this warm air, there is a warm air that is moving. So this cold air will catch up to the warm air, creating an occluded front. So this one, because we all know that this only moves from 10 to 25, right, miles per hour, and this cold front moves from 25 to 30 miles per hour. So this one, the cold air catches up the warm air. So this created an occluded front. So this is the occluded front, which has a color purple in the weather map. So the end of this front has a symbol of low pressure, because it creates a low pressure, and then it will eventually create a typhoon and bring thunderstorm. So this occluded front. So I have a question. what do you think is the strongest or the scariest front among those 4 types of front? What do you think? Yes? Warm front? Is it the warm front? Yes? Okay, that is the cold front, because the cold front brings a heavy rain and storm, and actually the cold front has the fastest movement among all the types of fronts. Thank you so much. Now, to summarize our lesson, so this is a cold front attached with a triangle. This is a cold air. This is the warm front attached with the semicircle and the occluded front. And then when these two will be attached with each other, so this created a stationary front. Okay, is that clear? Okay, thank you so much. And now I want you to go back to your respective groups because we will have this activity. Okay, so this activity is called the weather fronts in action. So colored markers, I will give you colored markers, large sheets of paper. So I will give you large sheets of paper. Printed symbols, I have here printed symbols for each front. This type of front, the warm, cold, stationary, and the occluded. So the students will go back to your groups. I know you are all in your groups and be assigned a weather front. I will assign you a certain weather front. So group 1 will have the warm front. Group 2 will have group 1 will have the cold front, and group 2 will have the warm front. 3 will be having the stationary front, and the group 4, last group, will have the occluded front. So you will create, what will you do? You will create a diagram showing air masses, movement, and the front symbol. So you will illustrate your assigned front. So arrows will be used to show the interaction of air masses. So each group will present their diagram. After you've done creating your illustration, you will show your diagram and explain how their fronts forms and the weather it brings and its movements. So you will present that in front of the class. Is that clear? Okay, so I will give you time to create your diagram. Okay, thank you so much, students. And now, in order for us to test your knowledge, let's have our assessment. So I will be giving you your test papers. You will answer it. There is 2 parts in that questionnaire. Part 1 is multiple choice, and second one is true or false. I will give these papers later on. Okay, so pass your papers afterwards. So now that you're done with your assessment, let's have your assignment. So you will draw a simple weather map showing the 4 types of fronts. Those are the cold, warm, stationary, and occluded. So you must label the air masses, warm and cold, and show the direction of movement using arrows. So you will mix those 4, or you will combine those 4 types of weather fronts, and you will draw that one. So write 2 to 3 sentences for each front, explaining how it forms and whether it brings. You will create or make 2 to 3 sentences for your explanation on how those particular weather front creates and its weather that it brings. Okay, so to end up our discussion, I will leave you to this quote from PC Cast. Weather is a great metaphor for life. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and there's no knowing what's coming next. That is why it is important to live in the moment and not to worry more on what's coming next, because tomorrow is uncertain, and just be happy in your current life, because at the end of the day, we'll just have to enjoy this short life of ours and reach the things that we always wanted to have. Okay, so thank you for listening, class. I hope you gained something today. Thank you so much and goodbye.